Welcome to The Virtual Shift, a show looking at the seismic changes happening in healthcare with virtual care at the epicenter. Join me and my guests as we look at key cultural and policy shifts impacting how providers, payers, and patients connect, as well as how care is being reimagined both for today and the future. Hello, and thanks for tuning in today. I'm your host, Tom Foley. You can learn more about this show by visiting the program on healthcarenowradio.com, and be sure to follow me on LinkedIn, Twitter at FoleyTom, and the hashtag The Virtual Shift. Today we have a great guest, Juergen Bayer. He is a security solution subject matter expert working for HP. Juergen, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tom, and thanks for having me. And welcome, everyone. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So, Juergen, you've been on this program before. You've been you get a great response from the audience in terms of listenership. So, I'm excited to have you back on. Today, we're going to talk about, as you know, a recent article that was printed in the Hackers News, unique challenges to cybersecurity in healthcare and how to address them. So before we get into the depths of the article itself, tell us a little bit about HP's security framework.
Yeah, so first of all, HP security framework, we gave it a name. So we now call it HP Wolf Security. So this should signal all the users there is something special with HP devices. And when I talk about HP devices, it's more about endpoints. So it's not only desktop notebooks, it can also be printers. But usually security you would not see. And you don't know how secure a device is until you experience a breach, data breach, or a hacker in your system. So we want to signal the users that there's a lot of things you can do when you purchase the device to make sure that you purchase a device which is more secure than another device. So and that's also plays into budgeting, because we know healthcare. Yeah, they maybe spend 5% of the IT budget for security, but that's clearly not enough. So purchasing a more secure device, well, that helps the situation.
Awesome. So this article refers to an IBM cost of data breach report, 2021. It states that the average cost per incident in healthcare in 2020 was $7.13 million, and the average cost for incident in 2021 was $9.23 million, which is a 29.5% increase. So certainly, healthcare is becoming more and more attractive, if you will, in its targeting of hackers. And any thoughts on the reasons why?
And you said it right, Tom. It's we now see healthcare vertical as with the highest cost of the data breach now in a consecutive row of 11 years, and we see even more increase in the healthcare vertical on the cost of a data breach than in average. So I mean, the reason why is the data. It's the data first, the healthcare institutions dealing with, and second, it's the environment we are in, where we're processing the data. And so the data are, of course, very attractive because they have no expiration date. Data, especially health data, they follow an individual for lifelong. So that's makes this data so expensive and so valuable. And of course, valuable data also increase the cost of it in case of a data breach.
So when you say the data, you're not necessarily talking about the clinical side of the data. It's more of, are you talking more the demographic side of the data, the name, address, email address, telephone numbers, credit card information? Is that the richer piece of interest from a hacker, or is it truly all the above?
Well, it's a combination. It's of course it's in healthcare vertical, we are mostly deal with PII data, so personal identifiable information. So with PII data, that's the nice part of for an attacker, because they can also, while they prevent access to the data, that's their one revenue stream, but they also can sell the data, or make the data public, and that's another stream of revenue for an attacker to get, let's say, ransom from a healthcare institute. So it is the combination. It's the just the name, just the birth date, and but also the health information, but also the data we are dealing, or the healthcare system is dealing on a basis, and denying the access to this data disrupts the healthcare system really a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's I would agree. It is a health and safety challenge in the time of the on two parts. One,
Mm,
during the time in which the data everyone is locked out of the data, being held ransom, as you know,
mm,
and so therefore the health and safety of every patient is critical. And then the second part is how is that data used even after it's made available again. This data does find its way onto, per this article, onto the dark web and used for other malicious intent. So
mm,
there's so many dominoes that impacts the not only the health and safety of the patient, but the overall integrity of the patient in
mm.
context of how that data is used. What would you say or would be good practices for an enterprise in context of what should they do differently than in the context of the security policies and infrastructure?
Well, and in terms of security policy and infrastructure, I would first say, when we look at the network of the devices, which are part of the network, we see a lot of simple devices, sensors. I would even say IoT devices. I think it's very important to segment these devices off, to have very good net segments of networks, which we can shield off from each other. So a data breach or an attack necessarily cannot easily spread around the whole network. And second, in terms of policies, we should look at the, and that's true for every business. We should look at the password policy. We should think about how we create secure passwords, and there are a lot of guidelines available, of course.
It's interesting you mentioned passwords. Out of all data breaches, 20% of them have to do with a breach on the compromising of the password for so many different reasons. Weak forms and medical
Mm,
devices constantly being logged in and not terminated and things of that nature. But
mm,
let's
mm,
talk about IoT for a second, because I think that's really critical. Healthcare is going through this transformation. Remote patient monitoring is a separate study. Remote patient monitoring is projected to be the new way of care delivery, right? It
mm,
extends the delivery of it extends the delivery of care from the brick and mortar facility into the home. So you no longer have to. So it's almost a 24/7 type of care. That's the way I look at it, and that's great for the patient. But those patients have medical devices, and the IoT devices that you mentioned seem to be one of the security
mm,
threats. And we know that IoT device is is not it's a smart device in context of measuring vitals, but it's not so smart in the context of security, and it's very difficult to upgrade that device.
mm.
Give as we would update our PC or even our smartphones in the context of new security threats and constant updates. So with that, how would you suggest to a health system how to roll out IoT infrastructure for remote patient monitoring type of model and still be able to protect their enterprise.
Mm.
Any
Yeah,
thoughts on
and
that?
right. And Tom, as you mentioned, yeah, these IoT devices, these sensors, they're very simple devices, so they cannot protect themselves very well. So in the security business, we talk about it this a concept where we have where we shield this off, and we can do this with a proxy. So a proxy could be, for instance, a notebook or a desktop where this device is connected to, and so we give the proxy more intelligence, and this proxy, of course, we can better configure, we can better monitor, we can better manage from remote, and this would function as a shield for the medical device operating at home. So, and for instance, HP device with built-in Wolf security would perfectly work as such a proxy with more intelligence, especially when it comes to security.
Awesome. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Virtual Shift. I'm your host, Tom Foley. I'm talking today with Juergen Bayer from HP. He is a security advisor and subject matter expert. So let's pick up on that. I am a patient in the home. One approach would be, hey, just get your IoT device connected to the cellular network and go directly into the enterprise. What you might be suggesting is that there's a layer of protection that could be had to mitigate the risk of what an IoT device could do. And that mitigation strategy is a tablet that is an HP tablet that can be managed and updated based on new security threats, and that IoT device ultimately would connect in the home first to that IoT device, which is probably relevant anyway because that patient in the home needs a health station, if you will, to engage in virtual care, or the remote patient monitoring, access to their health apps and things of that nature. So that health station becomes the enterprise security barrier, level one, if you will, in providing a barrier to the enterprise, and then that intelligent device, right? I got hypothetically a dumb device or a less intelligent device in that medical device from a security perspective, talking now to an intelligent platform, the HP platform with security. And then that ultimately would be talking to the enterprise. Is that the model that you're stating would be a better model in healthcare to mitigate security breaches?
Yeah, absolutely. And when we look at care at home and devices used at the home care, I see this more intelligent device, this proxy, as a healthcare hub, collecting all the data from the sensors and functioning as a single point of contact. And it's always better to have one point to make secure than many points. And of course, the more simple the device is, the more difficult it is to implement to the right protection in terms of security. So I see this as a very simple, even a network structure at home. You have for healthcare, where you have all the sensors connecting to your home network, but communicating only with this hub, with this tablet, with this notebook, with this desktop. And this device centralizes all data and has a secure communication line with, let's say, with a hospital network.
Yeah, and to be clear, we're not trying to make security be a very complex element of the solution. It still sits behind the glass, if you will, and internal to the computing platform, and it is still frictionless in context of end user integration. But what it provides the enterprise is confidence and and trust. And I know in the security world, you trust no one to some degree, but nonetheless, it is a level of security not otherwise had, if you will, for to mitigate the risk against what an IoT device can and can't do. You much rather, with all due respect to the patient, we'd much rather the security challenge be at the edge of the enterprise versus
Right.
being in the enterprise. Fair enough.
Yeah, and especially we cannot burden the patient with the task of being a security expert. And when we look at the home environment, there are many devices connected to this the environment, and some of them are more secure, some of them less secure. But the patient, they cannot differentiate what is secure, what is not secure. So we have to create a secure bubble, I would say, for this medical home care environment, and have this bubble also be manageable from the outside, so that experts can make sure that the environment is secure, especially when it comes to communicating with these medical devices.
Interesting. So the HP tablet or any computing platform within HP obviously embraces the Wolf security, but and that's chip level, if you will, is security, as I know Wolf security. But there's policy as well that sits on top of the architecture. What give me three elements, policy programs do you think would better enhance and mitigate the risk of breaches within a health system infrastructure?
Well, when we talk about security, we we talk about defense in depth. So this means we have layers of security. We cannot rely on one single system in terms of security, because once this system fails, and every system at some point of time will fail, we need a backup. We need something else protecting the environment which comes in. So when we look at these layers of security, you can also look at an endpoint has several layers of security. You have a security layer which is below the operating system, so it's in firmware. It's all the code which is responsible for the communicating the hardware with the operating system. But you have also a layer of the operating system where you can implement policies and where you can manage the device. So I think it's very good to have every of these layers covered, and that's what we do with HP, with the HP Wolf Security. We don't want to leave one of these layers uncovered, so that's it's more difficult for, of course, for the attacker to find the way in, and of course to stay persistent on the device. That's also the main goal, to prevent from this.
Interesting. So I am there's a couple different directions I wanted to go based on that response. But, at the end of the day, we have a very challenging road ahead in that, healthcare is innovating at and transforming at a record pace. And we don't want to overlook the importance of security, because sometimes that is the first thing that's overlooked, and then have a solution that is problematic in the context of potential breaches. So there's a lot to be considered as we enter into the home, whether it be telehealth or hospital at the home. Ultimately, an enterprise has a lot of consideration in front of them as the enterprise ultimately becomes community wide, not just within the cloud that they manage or their on-prem infrastructure that they manage. So there again, there's a lot to consider. Tell me, we have just a couple minutes left
Mm,
here. Tell me what you would advise from an evaluation perspective. So often the tagline is Intel inside, and I'm a huge Intel type of guy, so I get that. But when it comes to looking at other platforms, right? It's not, with all due respect to Intel, it's not just about the Intel chip. As I said, I'm a huge Intel fan, but there's more. And HP seems to be leading that effort in the context of how they embed security into the firmware and into other aspects of their computing platforms. Thoughts
mhm.
on that? The
Yeah,
I'm trying to get at the
yeah.
differentiator here and the overall value prop that
Mm.
enterprises should be looking at.
Well, when we look at projects in general or on devices in general, security should never be afterthought. Security should be part of the design, and I think and that's true for everything. We have to change our mindset a little bit. When we think about functionality, when we think about usability, we also have to think about security at the same time. So, and that's what we do at HP. Yes, we want to make the device more user friendly. Yes, we want to make the device more attractive, more appealing. But of course, at the same time, we want to make the device more secure because this is equally important, and that's sometimes overlooked. That's my
Sometimes device manufacturers worry more about the login, which is important. I'm not versus the overall infrastructure of the device itself, right? Firmware and other apparatus in the platform, and how it performs and protects data. So I think that's a huge differentiator for HP, in my personal opinion. So we have 1 minute left. If you had, we talked about a couple of things. One thing that you're going to be working on in the coming months relative to security. Any insights or advisement that you want to give the listeners relative to what they should be doing in context of security as they look further in rolling out infrastructure across their community?
well, but that's first of all, get educated. So what's going on in the world in terms of security? So not to be blindsided. And it's always for us as a vendor, we cannot, let's say, push security off to, let's say, the operating system or maybe the chipset. We also as a hardware vendor, we have to do our fair share, and that's also important. And that's where we're working on. We continuously inventing. So security is never a standstill. It's security is always evolving. The hackers got more sophisticated, their attacks, and more knowledge. So the goal is we have to keep on with the pace and yeah, to innovate. And that's what we do at HP. We innovate, continuously innovate, but always with the user in mind, with the usability of the device in mind, and with security in mind.
Awesome. Well, I'm an HP user myself, so I'm talking to you through the eyes of HP.
Oh, that's very much appreciated. Love that.
So, Juergen, as always, you are very intelligent and on many fronts. You are always providing great guidance to our audience in terms of what they should be looking for on the security front. It is not something that is a once and done. It is an ongoing, living, breathing apparatus that always needs attention. It's almost as I equate to healthcare. When you have a sick patient, it's not just about the one encounter. You have to manage that patient on a 24/7 basis when they have multiple chronic conditions, and the same thing is necessary. And I'm not saying that our enterprise listeners aren't doing that, but security is not a once and done deal. It is we need a value-based care delivery solution for our enterprise to manage and mitigate these risks that are these breaches that are happening more and more every day. So
yeah, and think about that. The data are your patient as well. So
yeah, exactly. Interesting. Well, Juergen, thank you very much. Juergen can certainly be found on LinkedIn if you want to reach out to him. You could also reach out to me on LinkedIn and or Twitter. Again, my name is Tom Foley, host of the Virtual Shift. And Juergen, thanks again for coming on the program. Look forward to having you on very soon.
great conversation today. Thank you, Tom.
I would like to thank the show sponsors, both HP and Intel. HP Engage long lifecycle products provide the stability, safety, and security you need, plus flexibility and performance designed for today and tomorrow. As well, Intel would like you to know we're going above and beyond together with new standards for business with the latest Intel vPro processors, delivering what IT needs for performance, security, remote manageability, and stability. And be sure to check out the program page on healthcarenowradio.com. And remember, connect or follow me on LinkedIn, Twitter at FoleyTom, and follow the show's hashtag, The Virtual Shift. I'm Tom Foley. Until the next shift.